Okay, Zach Taylor just challenged something in a preseason game, a 20-point preseason game. So we're going live to react to the Bengals preseason game because I don't think I could sit there and watch any more of that. Not that I'm like highly disappointed with the fact that they lost. And this is what I say to everybody after a preseason loss. It's my favorite stat. Every 0-16 team and the 0-14 Tampa Bay Buccaneers went undefeated in that preseason. So you want to lose a preseason game. You just want to lose one. You don't want to be in the group of the teams that didn't win any games in the regular season. Not like that's something that would actually be on the table for the Bengals this year. We've got a lot to talk about in the show today. In the show tonight, the live reaction. Matt Roden will be joining us soon. We're going to talk about Jackson Carman specifically in this show. Dax Hill, how he looked tonight. He was pretty impressive. We're going to talk about Zach Carter, Jeff Gunter, the whole thing. Whose stock is up? Whose stock is down on the first watch? I will say this. You've got to give us a chance to circle back around and look at some of the grading and different analysis for some of the upfront guys. I'm seeing a lot of excitement for Cordell Volson on Twitter. I thought he played good from the eye test, but I didn't put him in my stock up because I wasn't watching him enough. I tried to watch him closely, but it gets into the second half of a preseason game. We're not sure. But one player I am sure about is Brandon Allen, because we all saw him out there get a concussion. And that is the immediate question off the top of the show. Do the Bengals need to sign a veteran quarterback? And I think that's a question that we're going to ask in the show with Matt Roden. We've got stock up report. We're going to go over this. Chris Evans, Trent Taylor, Dax Hill, Zach Carter, Kendrick Pryor, all players that have their stock up. We're going to talk stock down, Jackson Carman, Thad Moss, Drue Chrisman, Trayveon Williams, and the cornerback depth. So all that in the show. But first, I want to just talk about, does this mean anything? And I think with the stat I shared that winless teams always go undefeated in the preseason, I think that should show you how much that I care about this, about the result, about a win-loss. But I will tell you this, Zach Taylor's not happy. That was a sloppy performance. That was not a crisp performance. And what I wrote down before the game, what did I want to see from this team? And we talked about this in the preview show, which you can check out on YouTube. We go into a whole bunch more than just previewing the game. So that's an episode worth checking out. By the way, like, subscribe, share on YouTube. If you see us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Do the whole thing so that we can do more of these. Planning to do 23 of these. Not the wild card round, but the divisional championship, Super Bowl. Hopefully a whole bunch of fun this season. But in terms of what I wanted to see from this team, it wasn't a result. It wasn't a win. And this could have been the score, and I could have been more satisfied as a fan. But it was really crispness and energy were the two things that you wanted to see from this Bengals team. You wanted to see them crisp, and you wanted to see them energetic. And those two things really lacked at times for me. And the crispness is something that I know that Zach Taylor is going to be upset about. I haven't even seen the post-game press conference yet. And I know, well, the game's not even over yet because Zach Taylor's out there challenging stuff down 20. 1:58 left in the fourth as we're streaming right now. Bengals down 36-16. But Zach Taylor's going to be upset with the way that they played in terms of their crispness. It's not about scoring points or moving the football. It's really not, because your offense isn't set up to do that because you're not play calling to help the offense. Same thing on defense. So you're really looking at more the crispness, the energy, the focus, the execution of it all. And that really was lacking for the Bengals this entire football game in every area. Just real sloppy on the penalty front, something that we thought was cleaned up with this team. They weren't going to have penalties. They weren't going to be this team that was penalized all over the place. And I think the first offensive play was the indication. Chris Evans, 65-yard run, and Thad Moss gets called for a holding. And it just happened over and over and over again for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know that Zach Taylor's going to be upset about that. Not necessarily the result, but the execution and the fact that they had to poorly execute their way to a bad result like that. But does it actually mean anything No, because all the important players were doing interviews in street clothes. So, when T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow, and Logan Wilson, and Trey Hendrickson, and Sam Hubbard, and DJ Reader, and BJ Hill, and literally almost every relevant player on the team didn't play, then, how am I supposed to come on here and say that this means anything for the Cincinnati Bengals in the preseason? But I would have liked it to look better. And I think that the fears that we talked about, Russ and we talked about the concerns for the Bengals and Joe Burrow not being there with the appendectomy, is that there's some crispness that you're going to miss if your starting quarterback is not there, especially because we've subscribed to the theory of the Joe Burrow effect on the rest of this roster. The rest of this roster elevating by Joe Burrow's presence. And we've talked to Nathan White on the 3 a.m. Coney, the offensive coordinator from his time in Athens, and he looked me in the eyes one time. He said, "Lucas, I don't know how people blocked on our team sometimes." I would look across the line and I would see guys way bigger than our guys, and somehow they were blocking. And that's that Joe Burrow effect. It's hard for the Joe Burrow effect of competitiveness and great practice and all this stuff if he's not actually out there practicing. So I think that that's a part of the Christmas tonight in terms of the lack of execution and the little things. There were miscommunications on screens, and it just looked sloppy. And I think Joe Burrow not being out there, not even out there on the field to execute, but at practice, it bleeds through the entire roster, and you don't get a crisp performance. And especially now, we don't know if Joe Burrow is going to come back on Monday. That's my guess. The rumor out there is maybe that he can practice next week, but he's got to get back quick, because if Brandon Allen's out with a concussion and can't practice, and Joe Burrow doesn't plan to practice next week, you are not going to get a good week of work in with Jake Browning, which God bless his effort tonight. But the kid is just not an NFL starter or even a quality backup in this league. That is evident every time that we've seen him play. And that's why he has not sniffed regular season action. And it will be listen, if Jake Browning is taking snaps this year, something's gone horribly wrong. And right now, something has gone horribly wrong. Your starter is out with an appendectomy, and Brandon Allen is out with a concussion. Imagine if this series of events happened in weeks 7 and 8. Now you got Jake Browning starting Monday Night Football against the Browns. And that would not go well against Myles Garrett, because it didn't go well tonight against the Cardinals' third stringers. So, Russ Heltman, and I've mentioned Russ Heltman a few times, so you should check out that episode. But we talked about the need of the Bengals to sign a veteran quarterback, and I wasn't really on board with it. It wasn't something that I felt was a desperate need. But now that Brandon Allen's sitting out with a concussion and Joe Burrow had an appendectomy, and he's going to be a little skinny, and he's not going to be in that perfect physical condition that you'd want him to be. I mean, still 99.99%, but there's just an anxiety and a reminder of football happens. And I'm not saying you need to get somebody that could play a whole season. If Joe Burrow goes out for the season's over. But what if, oh my God, what if it's Joe Burrow gets taken in that dumb blue tent and some medical officer says, "No, well, you got a concussion, son. You're going to sit out," instead of allowing Joe to shake it off, which they do for a bunch of guys. Let's say they go to the blue tent. It's the second half of the divisional round. What if you got Jake Browning out there? And I just think they probably need to add another arm to this room. I don't know who that is. I don't even know who's available on the market. I don't think it's a Jimmy G, but they've got to get somebody that could compete with Brandon Allen for the backup spot in this room, because there's a lot of this is football and bad stuff happens. There's a lot of that all over this team right now. And when you have that coming in all over the place, it makes me nervous that there's a stretch of the season where Jake Browning is going to have to play quarterback. And I think we saw tonight that that's not exactly ideal. So the game went final. Bengals actually turned out 36-23. Let's go ahead and take a look at this box score. While we're waiting on Matt Roden to join us, please like and subscribe to the show. I know I ask that a lot because I think most of you that are here have probably already subscribed. So I'll quit asking. But those new, subscribe, because most of you that watch don't actually subscribe to the show. So please make sure you do that because it's free to you and it means the world to me. Evan McPherson was awesome tonight. Let's take a look at the box score. The real shame in this is the Chris Evans line. The 8 carries for -3 yards, because that is not how Chris Evans played in this game. Now, it's a real shame for Chris Evans, I guess, if he cares about preseason stats, but it's actually a benefit for all of you that watch this show that have a fantasy football team. So let me tell you why. There are very, 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 very few people outside of the Cincinnati fandom and outside of the Arizona Cardinals fandom that actually watch this preseason game. And there are very few people that are going to go back and watch what happened in this preseason game. And unless they catch a highlight of a play that got called back or a random kickoff return, then I don't know how much hype Chris Evans is going to catch. The only unfortunate part about it, of him staying a fantasy sleeper, is that now he's on the Kim Kardashian radar. And he might get some buzz from all that stuff. And we might not be able to steal him in the very last round of our fantasy drafts, because I think this guy is going to blow up this year. I really believe in Chris Evans. He's one of my huge stock up guys for this season because of the explosiveness, because of the absolute terror that he can put into a defense from a receiver position, from just a raw speed and athleticism standpoint. And I think that there's a real future where the Bengals have Chris Evans and Joe Mixon splitting time in certain roles. And I just think he provides so much more upside than Samaje Perine. And everybody wants to talk to me about pass blocking, but Joe Mixon can't pass block either. And how many times on third down are they staying into pass block? Especially with the improved offensive line, the idea is that you don't have to do it so much. So I thought Chris Evans was really, really impressive tonight. And I think he's going to be a fantastic player for the Cincinnati Bengals. Jaquez Patrick, I think he moved ahead Trayveon Williams. If we're going to get into Trayveon Williams when we go stock up, stock down. But to me, I think Trayveon's just kind of played out his time in his hype here in Cincinnati. And I think Patrick provides more upside in terms of what he could provide to a winning football team. I think Trayveon and Chris are kind of double dipping into the same type of player, and Chris is way better at the receiving and the running than Trayveon is. So I think he's a good athlete, but still going to be a practice squad guy. I don't see him breaking the team. Kendrick Pryor ended up leading this team in receiving tonight, and he's one of my stock up guys as well. I had heard about him. I read about him in camp, but I honestly had not seen anything from Kendrick Pryor prior to this to go pun-wise, but he really impressed me tonight. He looked athletic. He looked crisp, got his toes down, was fantastic. 4 catches, 89 yards. And it's going to take performances like this to make the receiver room, but he's at least going to be sitting on the very outside of it. He's not a punt returner. We didn't see Kwame Lassiter, really. He only had 2 targets. Didn't really have much opportunity. Looked a little confident. I don't know. There wasn't any there. And if Trent Taylor can return punts, that's going to be his job to hold, because I thought he was fantastic tonight. And there you see 4 catches, 74 yards. Defensively, I like Clay Johnston, what he did. I thought Zach Carter and Jeff Gunter were good tonight. I don't think they were, oh my gosh, Joseph Osai last year against Tampa Bay, the way he looked. I don't think that they were going to, I wasn't sitting here going, oh my God, we have the greatest defensive line in the world now. But I thought that for the positions they were drafted in the 3rd and 7th round, I thought they were very impressive. And I think that they're going to provide a lot of upside, and they're going to be good rotational pieces, especially when you've already got a guy like Cam Sample on the roster, when you've already got depth there, when you already felt like you were attacking that position just to add 2 more talented guys to it. I think is going to be a real benefit. And I like the way they played tonight. Dax Hill, the 1st-round pick. Let's see, what were his final numbers? Where is he at? Only 1 tackle, one pass deflection. He almost had that interception in the end zone. I thought he played pretty well. Evan McPherson was awesome. Punting competition. This is something I wanted to look at. Kevin Huber, Drue Chrisman. Huber, 3 punts, 47.7 average, got 1 inside the 20. Had a better long. Honestly, it might be over already, this punting competition, because Drue Chrisman because of Kevin Huber's standing within the organization, because of his standing with everybody, Kevin Huber needed to be beaten soundly in this punting competition, and he simply was not. As we bring Matt Roden into the show to discuss,
yes, sir.
To discuss things like the punting competition. How are you, Matt?
I am here as the punting expert. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, did you see anything specific in the punting matchup that made you go, "Oh my gosh"? It just felt to me like they looked like they were tied, and Kevin Huber's the guy, and he's from Cincinnati, and it feels like he's the de facto winner.
Bearcats, I am absolutely going to have Kevin Huber continue to punt for as long as he wants. I only watched the first half and then the last 2 minutes. Did you see that Drue plit to Kendrick Pryor touchdown at the end there?
No, I have not seen that last touchdown because we hopped on. Once Zach Taylor challenged a play, I was like, I'm going to go live because I want to make sure that I get out.
It's preseason, baby. These are the most important.
Too late. No, but I have not seen it. But let me see if I can pull it up on Twitter real quick.
Pretty good. I think they are the future. I think Burrow and Chase have had a good run. But it is the Drue Plitt and Kendrick Pryor Bengals now.
Yeah, I think Kendrick could possibly maybe push off Trent Irwin or something and maybe sneak on and be that very last receiver, maybe. But even then, I just don't think that that's something that's going to actually happen. But let's talk about the big questions, and I went over a couple of them already, Matt. Do the Bengals need to sign a veteran quarterback? With Brandon Allen going out with a concussion, is this something that you think the Bengals need to attack?
I think so. I mean, Brandon Allen did not look great. I mean, you can't expect too much from your QB2, but if Joe Burrow goes out, if he's for some reason can't play through having one pinky again, and you have to put, oh nice, we got Huber coming in.
Yeah.
And you gotta put Brandon Allen or someone else in there. You want him to play close to the same level. I mean, what did you go over? What potential quarterback you would bring in?
No, because I can't really think of any realistic options because I don't think Jimmy G is a realistic option. I don't think this franchise is going to give up anything for that, and I don't think that's something that Jimmy would want to do.
You could get the beard. Fitzmagic to unretire.
You know what? I guess I would sign up for that. That would be a cool storyline. He's got some experience. I think that would be cool to add to the room. He's a good guy. But there's just not a lot of great options out there. I just think they probably just need to bring another arm in at this point because they're going to have Brandon Allen out for a few days. And especially if Burrow's not back next week, Matt, it's more about how practice operates. If you've only got Jake Browning, it's not going to be as crisp. You're not going to run as quickly through the offensive sessions. It's not going to look as good as it needs to be. It's not going to be as intense as it needs to be. And that's negative for the development of the team. So I just think that bringing an arm in is probably something that they'll consider with Brandon Allen potentially being out a week or 2 weeks with the new concussion protocols.
Yeah. And I mean, I saw Joe Burrow doing something that looked like sprints before the preseason game today. So
I think he'll
be ready.
I think he's practicing Monday.
Mm-hmm.
They practice on Sunday, so maybe even practices Sunday. I think that there's a real chance you see him out there.
You have him in for one drive and then that's it. The entire first team in for one drive and then pull him, or
I don't think it's not even about playing in the preseason. I just think that they want him to play in the Rams joint practices. That's the main goal for Burrow right now is get him to the Rams joint practices because that's going to be the best competition that he sees in a safe environment because nobody can hit you. You're wearing the red jerseys. I think if the NFL wanted to make these preseason games more interesting, that they would keep the red jerseys on because teams would be more likely to go play their starters if you keep the red jerseys on and you do a two-hand touch thing for the quarterbacks because that would be more. I would rather watch quarterbacks that are significant to the league instead of what we got at the end of the night which was some guy that I think was named Garoppolo. I don't know. I had a couple glasses of wine. Started with the Guantanamo. I don't know what his name was. Playing for the
Guantanamo coming
the
out here.
Arizona Cardinals. But I love what organizations do. They kind of look like versions of Kyler Murray in their own right, the same way that Jake Browning and Brandon Allen look like versions of Joe Burrow in their own way, like in their own style movement. So I love how organizations do that. So Matt, I wanted to wait till you're here to go up through my stock up, stock down, see what you thought of the lists.
Beautiful.
Stock up for me tonight. This is the list I came up with. I did 5 guys for each. Chris Evans, Trent Taylor, Dax Hill, Zach Carter, and Kendrick Pryor. Now, to me, the biggest one here that we haven't been talking about is Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor just locked himself into this roster. I think he's so consistent with his ability to catch the ball. He reminds me of an Amendola and Welker, this undersized guy that's just in the right spot and catches the ball. He has a good connection with Joe. And I think that he's a guy that if one of the big 3 got hurt, especially if it's Tyler Boyd, and you can stick Trent Taylor into the slot, I think Trent Taylor is one of those guys that can significantly produce for this offense just because he's smart and he catches the ball when it's thrown to him. And
and that's exactly who you want him to be, that little Wes Welker in the slot, dangerous, and can run after the catch.
Yeah, and I think he showed that tonight. I really do think that he showed that ability tonight just to be in the right spot and to make plays.
I like your list. The only other 2 I have are Volson and Browning.
So Volson, to me, I saw him. It was tough to really lock in on him, and that's going to be tough for us until I take a look back at it and look at PFF grades and look at a bunch of people that are much smarter than me, that know a lot more about offensive line to really get a full grasp of how he played. But I do know that his stock went up because of how bad Jackson Carman
went down.
Jackson Carman played bad enough for me to notice, okay?
Yeah.
When I watched Cordell Volson, my thought was, well, you know what? I'm going to go look at the tape, guys, to see how good he really played. When I watched Jackson Carman play today, I had a visceral negative reaction, which I'm just going to put the stock down while we're looking at it. I had a visceral negative reaction when he got picked up but I believe is a backup defensive tackle for the Arizona Cardinals, who are not some devastating pass rush. They're relying on the ashes of J.J. Watt to rise up and get some sacks for him. And Jackson Carman got picked up like a rag doll and put in the lap of the quarterback. And he had a holding. He was a disaster out there.
Terrible.
Absolute disaster. And this idea that an immature guy can become mature, if he does, it's only going to be for a season. If Cordell Volson can be a significant contributor, Matt, that would be a saving grace for this organization. Because Jackson Carman, even if he does flash and is okay in some games, will consistently be an unreliable person and an unreliable player for this organization. He's proven that off the field, on the field, with his habits coming into last training camp, and with his play, frankly, in every situation, and with the coaching staff and the way that they handle him. So I think that it's stock up for Cordell Volson, not because of the way he played. I think he played well, again, from what I could judge, but stock down for Jackson Carman brings that Cordell Volson stock up. It's like if oil goes down, if oil goes down, then green energy goes up or something like that. I don't know if that's true.
Well,
however you want to talk about
oil, Jackson Carman sliding right down. And you got Thad Moss there too. Too many holding calls against him.
Well,
and
Thad, this is the thing, is that Thad is a good
Chris
enough
Evans
receiver.
Looked amazing. A lot of those were called back because of Thad Moss.
Well, and Thad is a good enough receiver, man, that he could probably be out there, but he is an absolute liability, blocking wise, clearly.
Yeah.
And that's why he struggled to make this roster. But that's another question. Are you concerned about the tight end depth? Because Mitchell Wilcox is hurt, Drue Sample is hurt. We're a Hayden Hurst sprained ankle away from Thad Moss lining up out there and having to chip Myles Garrett in a Monday Night Football game. Like
we're going to have to adapt. What I have learned from watching this preseason game is that the Bengals starters have to stay healthy. They just have to.
Most of them at least, but that's always the case, right? That's always the case. And I thought the depth at the corner position and the depth at the tight end position, to me, became more front of mind concerns watching this game.
Yeah.
Because it's the same deal. You lose Mike Hilton and Cheeto. I mean, oh God, Jalen Davis might have to guard somebody in this league. And is he even close to capable of that? There's real concerns and questions in certain position groups. It not that they wouldn't have the ability to game plan around it, and not that it would harm their win-loss record significantly, but in terms of winning the Super Bowl, like if it's Thad Moss and Jalen Davis out there in a divisional round game because you had bad luck with injuries, Matt, then you're not beating the elite of the AFC.
Yeah.
You're really not. So I think that kind of brought it front of mind. And this entire preseason, Matt, has been a ride back down to earth in terms of the appendectomy, and yeah, it's just football.
But we talked about it before. If it had to happen, you want it now. Middle of the season could have been worse too. That could have taken him out for 2-3 weeks.
It's just a reminder that it can happen. It's just a reminder
that like, this team is on the back of Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Do you know, it's like those Revolutionary War movies when they all walk up in a straight line and everybody's like, you know, because they haven't been battling in a few months, and then the first volley comes, and
I thought they were just drunk,
and the guy next to him gets shot in the neck, and then everybody's face like, "Oh my God, I forgot what this was like."
This is real.
That's what this football. But I'm glad that it happened with our quarterback having an invasive surgery, which, again, with his timetable back to return and the fact that he had an IV on his arm, one can safely assume that it wasn't a normal appendectomy. We can't assume anything past that, but I think common sense would take us to at least that it wasn't normal.
I can say from experience, having my appendix start to explode and have to get emergency appendectomy surgery and having it be the worst pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. Him even walking a few days after is a good sign because I was out for 2 weeks.
Before, I don't want to get into too much appendix talk. There's been too much.
Let's have a whole show about appendixes. I don't know.
Did it burst before though?
No, but it was close, and I had to wait for another over an hour and a half in the hospital in writhing pain because someone else took my surgery slot because they had a prolapsed anus. So, yeah.
That's a good band name, Prolapsed Anus.
It's a great band name.
We want to thank Arthur for his comments. And by the way, you can leave a comment and I will see it and we'll put it up. And this is a great jump off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is our great jump point for our next conversation, Matt, which is Dax Hill played well. And I agree. I think Dax Hill showed his athleticism, his range. I would have loved for him to come down with the interception, but I think that first game, getting your hands on it is always great. I coach a lot of racket sports, and if somebody's doing something difficult, I'm like, hey, don't worry about if you're nailing the shot. Just kind of if you're hitting the sweet spot of your paddle or racket or whatever, we're fine there. And in the preseason, Dax is getting his hand on the ball. He's breaking to the ball. He looks good. He looks crisp. He looks sharp.
I wish you would have come down with that interception. That would have been amazing.
But what do you think his ceiling is on this team, Matt? Like, what do you think could he be like a first round, come in like Derwin James, this super versatile playmaking safety that can pair with anybody, can play the strong safety, the free safety? I mean, what do you think he is on this team? Is he just a rookie that pops in sometimes? Where do you see Dax Hill fitting on the 2022 Bengals?
I mean, for him to tout himself as this hybrid where he can play anywhere on the defense, and then with Jesse Hill, who was at the game, or Jesse Bates, who was at the game, but just watching from the side up in the booth, it's going to be up to him. I think that he has a lot that he can prove. His ceiling is very high, where he could potentially come in and be one of the better corners in this league or better safeties, and it's going to be up to him. And it's going to be up to what the Bengals need out of him.
Yeah, and I think they'll need a lot out of him because of the way that Lou Anarumo dreams of playing. I think he dreams of playing with Dax Hill and Jesse Bates and Von Bell at the same time. That's,
Yeah.
I think, what his dream is. So if Dax Hill can fulfill that for him, and when I wrote an article for Stripe Pipe, I said 5 dream scenarios for the Bengals. What's something that when you lay your head down on the pillow at night that you could come up with? And I think Dax Hill could potentially show us, this is again a dream, I'm not saying it's reality, that Lou Anarumo is secretly a genius. A genius. A defensive mastermind born out of absolute mad scientist defensive genius. Because there's been small, tiny signs with what he's done with bad personnel. Now, you would think I'm crazy saying that a guy who had the most vanilla schemes in the NFL for back-to-back seasons without blitzing would be a defensive genius. But he kind of plays to his personnel. And last year when he got Mike Hilton, a guy that could actually blitz out of the nickel position, when he actually had the personnel to apply creative schemes, he shut down Lamar Jackson. He shut down Patrick Mahomes twice in 2 second halves. Bill Belichick hasn't even done that. So you could start convincing yourself that, hey, maybe Lou Anarumo is secretly a genius. And if Dax Hill allows him to play that 3 safety set that he's been dreaming about since he came to Cincinnati, and it actually work, I think that there's a whole chest of things Lou Anarumo has cooked up in the lab that he's been scared to use that I think he would use.
So you think he's had them? He's just been scared to use them. That's why it's been so.
Or he hasn't had the personnel, right? I'm talking myself into it. It's a little bit of a. But listen, if this defense,
everyone but Baker Mayfield, that's who it worked against.
Yeah, if this defense ascends into the top 5, even if he's not a genius, even if it's just personnel, people will be saying that he's a genius, and he'll be a head coach next year. So
I can see it.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I think Dax Hill's stock way up because it's just kind of confirmation of everything that we saw. And they look athletic. I think that they really hit on a few of these draft picks. I think Jeff Gunner's getting a lot of hype, but Zach Carter, Jeff Gunner, and Dax Hill, they all look super athletic. And I think Cam Taylor-Britt would have looked athletic as well. And that's it. They're athletic and they're good guys. Okay, put them in the Bengals culture. It'll probably work out. And I love that they're starting to find guys like that. That was the problem with Jackson Carman, who, again, a reminder of our stock down. Jackson Carman is a major concern for this team because we're all going to fall in love with Cordell Volson because he's not Jackson Carman. But that doesn't make him a better guard than a league average guard. Just because Cordell Volson is this hardworking, nose to the grindstone kid.
He's like a regular, 9 to 5, come to work, do his job, go home.
But all his NFL comps, Matt, even the best ones, the Hall of Fame comps I've heard for Cordell Volson, you go look at those guys' careers, it took them 2 to 3 years to athletically adjust. So if we're throwing out Cordell Volson because Jackson Carman sucks so bad at left guard, that's still a risk because he's a rookie left guard that has athletic deficiencies. So there's a chance that he doesn't have the technique yet and he gets exposed. Doesn't mean he won't be a great guard next year or the year after. And I think Cordell Volson is definitely the better long-term option because you trust his maturity and development. But 2022 is supposed to be Jackson Carman. He's supposed to be good enough to sit there and protect Joe Burrow. And he's not. He's not. It's a liability. And unless the rest of the line is so damn good it covers him up, I think we're going to be screaming about Jackson Carman time and time again this entire season. I really do.
That's good. I can mentally prepare myself now.
Yeah, because there's not going to be a lot to point at on this team. So if this team has offensive deficiencies, that's a big red circle coming for Jackson Carman. Big red circle. But I don't think that there's going to be enough for it to be that big of a deal. So they might be able to skate by with it because I think they're going to be so explosive. And I do think that they're going to be able to cover him up some. But this is not supposed to. you had a chance to sign Kevin Zeitler, and this is what kills me. And I hate to be critical of the Bengals, but to go back while we're on it, Matt, they should have just signed a veteran guard, Kevin Zeitler, bring back Quentin Spain, have another body. Because right now
Spain was in Cincinnati.
What if
he tweeted out a picture?
Okay. Because right now it's
he was
Carman,
ready apparently.
Carman, Adeniji, and Volson. What if it's a rematch with the Rams and Aaron Donald's lined up over them? Leave you with that thought as we come to a close here on the post-game recap, right?
Yeah.
Jackson Carman versus Aaron Donald. Right?
I'm trying to look at this game as preseason, not starters, and that the offensive line is better.
Jackson Carman
still after this game, still.
Oh, yeah. Cordell has to take Cordell. They gave this job to Jackson, given. And if Cordell Volson wins this job, it is not the best outcome for the Bengals. It might be for 2-3 years from now. I mean, unless Cordell Volson comes out and he's like an all-pro guard, and if he is, wow, great, amazing, and I really hope that's true. But I think that Cordell is going to be a great player his second, third, fourth, and fifth year, not necessarily his rookie season. So relying on him to win a freaking Super Bowl, which is the goal of this team, is not ideal.
With the offensive line being the biggest issue for the Bengals and why they did not win the Super Bowl last season, seeing Brandon Allen go out with a concussion and having Joe Burrow coming off an appendectomy, no idea how that's going to affect him, but wanting to keep him alive, the offensive line needs to be twice as good as it was last season. And if Jackson Carman can't do it, then anyone needs to replace him.
Yeah, but that's just not, then we'll just start blaming somebody else. I mean, that's what it ends up being. So somebody needs to step up and produce. I think the rest of the line will cover it up and it won't be that bad. Last thing I want to talk to you about, although I know, listen, the 3M Coney, are we officially affiliated with the Chili, Matt? Have we signed a deal?
We are not.
Okay.
We are just chili enjoyers
chili
of multiple.
Well, you know what? We eat a lot of Gold Star around here. Just saying.
Who says that? There's no Gold Star in Chicago.
Well, Jess has it ordered because Jess is from the southern part of Ohio where there's only Gold Stars around. And how about Gold Star making a little marketing bounce back tonight? We'd love to see it. Gold Star starting to.
This was not approved by me.
I'm just kidding.
as a Skyline Chili influencer, this was not approved by me.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. We do but I like their message, which is that it's okay if they don't want to make it a rivalry. Which when you're the underdog and the rivalry is how you're supposed to approach it.
I'm surprised by that though. I'm surprised that they don't take a more punching up aggressive approach. Like we got fucking burgers and shit too, idiots.
But this is the thing. I love Skyline and I love Gold Star. And I think if Gold Star became hyper aggressive in their marketing, it could be really fun.
I think so.
Yeah, that's why I wish they had $200 million in the bank because because every time they talk about chili, because Gold Star bought the chili rights for the Bengals, that when those players eat the chili.
Yeah, do we know how long that lasts? Like when is the Gold Star partnership up?
But those players eat the chili, and then all the comments, it's like, man, Skyline's so good, Skyline's so good. Like if I'm the marketing rep for Gold Star, I'm like, man, this is kind of like we're getting run over here. We paid for these rights. Like we need to start swinging a little bit, right?
Yeah, should have them say "fuck Skyline" before they take a big bite of a Gold Star Coney.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be fun for the city to have some chili wars, and I think that for especially shows like that, because I really do. I think they're both equally delicious, to be honest with you.
No
Matt
comment.
Doesn't agree. Matt's definitely a Skyline guy. I know.
No
Everybody's
comment.
a Skyline guy.
You find me a Gold Star that's open until 3 a.m. How about that?
No, that's true. And unless I think Skyline's a better dine-in experience, I would say.
You're gonna start some arguments here. Gonna be a good season.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season. And I know that we went negative some in the show today, but that's what the preseason's for, because you're seeing the guys that could ruin your season. Because
You got to be hypercritical, because if these guys are the ones that are going to be coming in and you're expecting them to just not be a Bobby Hart hole, you need them to be able to at least stand their own.
Yeah. Because that's what we noticed about the playoff run last year. How many guys, Clay Johnston stepped up, Trent Taylor stepped up in big moments. So you really want to feel like you can rely on those second, third layer guys. So it was fun to watch. It was fun to react. It was fun to talk Cincinnati Bengals on the show. We appreciate everybody for listening, everybody for watching, leaving comments. We broke our record for comments because normally we get a lot of people watch after the show, and I love the live reaction. So we got a bunch of comments.
Nice.
And Matt, we've got 22 more of these to go because we're going to get the 1 seed. It's going to be a first round bye. Then we're going to the Super Bowl.
That's why.
And
Perfect number right there.
I'd like there to only be 4 or 5 sad ones like this where the team gets beat. So hopefully not too many more sad ones in this one.
Just a few. Just show them we're a little human.
Yeah, of course. All right, that's it for us on the show. Matt, anything else from you?
No, that's it. All right, excited for Joe Burrow to come back.
Oh, that was my number one thought tonight. Just kept watching like, man.
Like, that's not Joe Burrow. That's not Jamar Chase. That's not Joe Burrow.
This isn't as fun. It's an old reminder of what 2017 was like. You're like, oh, God.
Especially with that offensive line. It's like, oh, God. I'm very glad these are not the starters.
And I'm like, Jake, step up, step up, step up, step up. Like, but Joe has an uncanny ability to step up. So you're asking these guys to step up like it's supposed to be this easy thing. You're like, all right, come on. Be elite.
Just watch Joe Burrow. Do what he does.
Yeah. It's easier said than done. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.